Thank you all for taking the time to come to this tribute to Michael Bono. As I believe you all know, Michael Bono passed away on October 23rd, 2016, 5 months after being diagnosed with a stage 4 brain tumor. The NAWRS Board of Directors and the broader research community that NAWRS serves was shocked and saddened by Michael's untimely death. Michael was a good friend and a highly respected colleague, and his contributions to NAWRS went far, far beyond the call of duty. We're here to take a few minutes to celebrate his friendship, his dedication to NAWRS, and his work on behalf of children and families. Over the past decade and a half that Michael was on the board of directors, no one made greater contributions to the organization. Michael revived our sponsorship program, worked closely with outside research organizations that contribute to the success of the conferences, and he did much strategic thinking about the NAWRS mission and organizational structure. And importantly, he followed through implementing that thinking. He did this with patience, kindness, energy, and great intelligence, and while holding down a challenging day job. Michael was president for 3 years, longer than anyone can remember. This meant that he was responsible for the conference on 3 separate occasions. Now, anyone who has tried to get a complicated and labor-intensive thing done with a team of volunteers knows full well what a miserable job that is. In fact, each year, the next president is picked at a board meeting held at the end of the conference. Somehow, board members you had seen all day long for the previous 3 days would be conspicuously absent for the meeting, or claim they were feeling faint right before that item came up on the agenda. I myself held out for as long as possible until I felt I had to volunteer to have a conference in New York. And even then, I talked a colleague at the agency, Dave Duglecki, into being co-president with me. Which brings me to my first story about Michael. After I had suffered the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, in other words, planning and presiding over the conference in New York, I thought I had learned a lot, and I was anxious to impart my newfound wisdom to the next president, who happened to be Michael. So after the board meeting at the close of the New York conference, I took Michael aside and said, "Michael, forget the committees. If you want to get anything done, just find one person who will take responsibility for each important task and get 1 or 2 people to help that person if they need it." Now, I can still remember the look on Michael's face when I said this. It wasn't disrespectful, but it was obvious that he didn't see it as the great bit of wisdom that I saw it as. So I thought to myself, poor boy, he is going to have such a hard time. But as we all now know, he went on to do the kind of strategic and organizational thinking I alluded to in my opening remarks, turning NAWRS into a much smoother running organization and voluntarily remaining at the helm longer than any previous president. I also wanted to say that there's another side to Michael that we on the board had only a few glimpses of now and then. It was his love of wine, music, art, fishing, and gardening, which he would talk about now and then. And most of all, his love for his family, his wife Valerie, and his children Eliana and Raphael. Excuse me. So I will end my opening remarks with one of the few glimpses I had of Michael's many interests, and then let you know what we're going to do with the rest of the hour. And like the other story, this also happened at the New York conference. Thank you. That's also happened at the New York conference. So I was walking across the lobby to the next presentation, and I ran into Michael, who was very casually dressed. And I said, Michael, did you see that presentation? I'm not sure what it may be, by Bruce Meyer, the poverty presentation then. And he said, no, I had to go fishing. And you can't tell the department back at LA, anything about this, but or try not to. And so now I knew Michael lived in Venice. I knew he had a PhD. He was a policy wonk. And I thought, he must be joking, right? So I soon found that, no, he wasn't joking, from talking to him. He just happened to know, somehow, from Venice, California, that the area north of Albany, the Adirondack Mountains, was the second largest wilderness area in America after Denali, and had hundreds of rivers and streams to go fish in. So he just couldn't resist and went fishing, at least for maybe that day. He probably attended all the other parts of the conference. So, so in closing, I want to mention that there's an award that NAWRS gives out at the end of each conference to one or two people who've made an outstanding contribution to the development of the conference. And that's been happening since 1958. What was the first year, 56 of the organization and these conferences? And it's in the bylaws. And we're going to rename that award from now on, the Michael Bono Outstanding Achievement Award. So each year, we'll remember him that way. And finally, the Board of Directors would like to express their gratitude to Michael's family for sharing this cherished colleague with us for so many years. Thanks. Now, I wanted to tell people what we're going to do at the rest of the hour. We're going to have a silent viewing of a subset of the photos that were prepared about Michael's life and work. And they are, that's probably over 200, right? I'm sorry, we're going to have a silent viewing of the photos that were prepared for this event. And what Kinsey has done is taken a third of them for a silent viewing. And they're about, Michael's wife, and his life with his family, his pictures about his work at LA Department of Social Services, and things, pictures of the conference and stuff. So it'll take about 4 minutes. So we wanted to have that silent viewing. And then after that, we're going to open it up to people who want to say something about Michael. And while that happens, the full 250 photos will be constantly looping on that screen in the background. So, after that, we will, after we've had those comments, and we're going to start with comments from the Los Angeles Department of Public Social Services, where Michael worked. Henry Bermudez, who's right sitting over there, has come as a representative of the department, and he has a letter from the executive, I keep forgetting the department head, and then he has a set of comments from the people who worked under Michael and with Michael. And after that, we'd like to open it up to anyone other than the board or previous board members who want to make some statements, and then we'll end with the board members' statements. And I think our final statement will be from Valerie Bono, Michael's wife. And then people are going to be free to have a toast. Michael loved wine. And I'll do the final toast. Okay? So I guess, we're doing the silent viewing, and that'll be just for 4 minutes. We'll sit and watch.
Good afternoon. My name is Henry Bermudez, and I am here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services. I'll be sharing memories of Michael from staff, starting with our department head, Ms. Cheryl Spiller. One of the images that was shared was the actual letter that I'm reading from. Remembering Dr. Michael Bono. Dr. Michael Bono first joined the Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services, DPSS, in 2003 as a chief research analyst. He coordinated the department's participation in research studies by outside entities and the county's chief executive office. Within 3 years, Michael became a manager, leading a small but highly effective team. In addition to research, his work included development on the department's strategic plan, department head goals, and departmental surveys. Michael also contributed greatly to the Adult Linkages Project, which received the county's Productivity and Quality Award in 2009. Michael was frequently recognized for the high caliber of his work. Between 2006 and 2008, he earned annual performance evaluation ratings of outstanding, a rare but well-deserved accomplishment in DPSS. In 2012, his work on the data mining system, DMS, to detect and prevent childcare fraud earned him a second County Productivity and Quality Award. Managers considered Michael a positive role model for staff. He was very concerned with issues related to poverty and continuously provided his team with news and research articles on the subject. He also had a unique sense of humor. His laughter carried and could be heard from a great distance. On behalf of DPSS, I extend my gratitude for Michael's work, scholarship, leadership, and dedication to improving the lives of our county's neediest residents. Michael's professionalism was truly remarkable, and his contributions to the department were unparalleled. We miss him greatly. Cheryl L. Spiller, Director, Department of Public Social Services. Now I'll be sharing a few memories from staff, some of whom worked directly in Michael's unit and other staff that he also worked with in other bureaus and divisions. I'll be reading the memory and the name of the staff member right after. Michael was and continues to be a special person in DPSS. It wasn't just his intelligence, his patience, his commitment to supporting LA County DPSS that we miss. It's also the positive energy he brought to the office. It was his uplifting smile and contagious laugh. It was his special ability to engage you in a meaningful conversation, be it on research projects or something as mundane as today's weather. Michael brought a genuineness to work that not only is greatly appreciated, but is often lacking in our hectic workplace. I miss Michael, but continue to appreciate the compassion, professionalism, and kindness he brought to work every day. Jose Perez, DPSS Division Chief. My heart resonates with fond memories of Michael. His jolly laugh, his calmness, his intellect, and his true dedication to the research studies he successfully launched and supported, with outcomes that continue to be used to improve welfare programs and the lives of families DPSS services. He was a brilliant colleague. I truly miss his passion for research and his energetic leadership. Kim White, DPSS Section Head. Mr. Bono was a major contributor in the development and implementation of the predictive analytics algorithm scoring methodology for the data mining solution, DMS, for the Department of Public Social Services. He worked very closely with the Chief Executive Office Service Integration Branch and the departmental business and technical groups to ensure the application being developed for the child care welfare fraud detection would assist in program integrity efforts for the CalWORks Stage 1 child care program. Since deploying DMS, LA County has significantly improved efficiencies, uncovered more fraud, and accelerated investigations. Over the last several years, DMS application has received over 10 awards from various jurisdictions for the successful use of the tools. Amy Farsakian, DPSS Principal Information Systems Analyst. What I admired the most about Michael was his inclusiveness. The reason he touched so many lives is because he wasn't afraid to reach out to people and get them to work with him. He kept them engaged with his warm and friendly personality. Everybody was friends with Michael because he made everybody his friend. And the reason I miss him so much is because he was really a genuine friend. Darling Garcia, DPSS Management Fellow. I am grateful for my experience in working with Michael, for how he helped me to see failure as a way of sparking innovation, and that willingness to take risks leads to ambitious ideas. Now I seek those qualities in other leaders. Alonso Rodriguez, DPSS Management and Research Services. Michael was a teacher above all. He wanted you to know how things worked. He wanted you to be curious, ask questions, and share ideas. He enjoyed lingering in a conference room after a meeting to explore informally the agenda topics that had just been discussed. He loved sitting with new hires, describing the histories and current forms of DPSS programs. When he got sick, he stayed up nights researching glioblastoma, multiform brain cancer, and sharing what he found with others. He told me he wanted us to learn something from his journey rather than merely grieve. He was a gentleman, funny, compassionate, and gracious, with a booming laugh that is still missed in the hallways of DPSS. Jenny Zog, DPSS Chief Research Analyst. Thank you.
I didn't know Michael very well. We had, through NAWRS, numerous opportunities to talk, but they were brief. But I have a very strong impression of Mike. And the impression is really multidimensional, and I think that's what makes him so interesting to those of us who remember him. One's both of breadth and the other is depth. He certainly had depth. He knew our business. He understood the research he was hearing and the connection between that and day-to-day activities of the Los Angeles department that he served. I've known people like that. But he was also had great breadth. And we see it in the family, we see it in his interest in fishing, we see it in his interest in wine and art and the like. And I sampled both of those things about Michael over time, and I realized that I was honored to know a person that was whole, with breadth and depth. And it's easy to understand where you hear these testimonials to people about his friendship and about how benefited they are for having that as part of their lives. And I regret that I didn't know him better, but I'm pleased that I had the opportunity I did. When I checked into the hotel, I was trying to find my Omni frequent stayer thing, and I don't stay at Omni hotels very much. And I had to search around and I couldn't find it, but I eventually checked in. And I noticed that when you log into your Omni account, you get a chance to look at your history, which is very frightening, the fact that out there are organizations that know what you did 20 years ago. So I looked at the last time I stayed in an Omni hotel. And it was in the summer of 2010 in Los Angeles when we were here for a NAWRS conference. And I remember that conference very well. For one thing, it was the first conference in which I convinced a research assistant of mine named Teresa Anderson to come along. I had Michelle Durr dump on me because in a PowerPoint I described Teresa as a femme fatale, and she thought that was terribly sexist. But now everybody understands that was, an apt characterization. But what I really remember about that conference was a Michael Bono, nice touch. We went out to the beach. In typical NAWRS fashion, we went out in a school bus, very classy, to the beach. But we went out to that wonderful, the remnant of the Hearst the house that he built for Marion Davies. And the California Parks Department has turned it into a very nice kind of conference visiting center. And true to Mike, first of all, it's a great place, and it was a wonderful evening. And true to Mike, you know, the food was great. We ate on a little veranda. The wine was great. And it was, you know, the beach was there, and so we were sort of taking off our shoes and running down and padding in the water, which made Mike very happy. I think it's probably the closest. NAWRS has done many bizarre things. I think that's probably the closest we've ever come to all taking off our clothes. But it was really good. And so, what we remember about Mike is all that character, breadth, depth, and then this personality that lived life well. That's an honor.
I met Michael in the first time. I think it was either 2003 or 2004, or right around the time when he was brand new as the head of research at LADPSS. And I was running a small business at the time, and we had just won our biggest contract so far, which was like a contract to evaluate implementation of time limits under CalWorks in statewide. And as part of that, we had to do case studies in 6 counties, I think it was. And obviously, like anybody who knows California, if you're going to do case studies in counties, you don't want to leave out Los Angeles. And so I basically had to cold call Michael and talk him into this intrusive study where he had to agree to let us observe how people were told about time limits and analyze data and all that kind of stuff. And I was very nervous, and I obviously had never heard of Michael, and I called him up, and it was really funny because it ended up being like, I'd planned, you know, like this, like, oh, I'll tell him quickly about our study, and then he can talk it over with his people, and then at some point we'll have a follow-up meeting. But we ended up talking for well over an hour. He grilled me. I think he was still at UCLA, or had just graduated, had just gotten his PhD. I don't know exactly the timing, but it was around that time. And he grilled me about the study design and all the details. And as the conversation sort of proceeded, and he started to realize that I at least pretended to know what I was doing, and that I sort of impressed him with the design, he kind of loosened up, and he started giving all these suggestions. And that particular study, we made changes to the design based on that one conversation, and I think that study actually ended up being a lot better. And it was completely unprompted, and really I was asking him a favor, and instead I got way more back. And of course, Los Angeles was part of that study. And then the best part that I was just remembering, I was sort of trying to think back of that, is that the meeting lasted so long, not because we talked for over an hour about this particular design and this particular study, but we talked for at least 40 minutes about his children, our hiking preferences, where I was from, where he was from. So it was sort of like, it started out as like this kind of scary professional cold call, and it ended up being this long discussion about life in general. And over the time of that project, and also over the time of the current project that we are still having with Los Angeles, every time I talked to Michael, we ended up sort of, having like this sort of casual side conversation about things. And I don't, I'm an extrovert in terms of how I feel comfortable talking to people in public, but it's not like I share my private life with a lot of people. I don't have those kind of casual conversations very often, and so I really remember that. And I think to me, Michael was a very special person for sort of making me talk about these things, and for him sharing his life with me so unprompted and so easily. So it's something I will never forget.
So I just will say, when I think of Michael, I just smile. And I always want to do that. I mean, I feel really sad that he's not here, but I feel like Michael was sort of a one-person welcoming committee for NAWRS. And I just feel like it didn't even matter if he was, you know, the person who was organizing everything or whatever he was doing. I just felt like he always had time for people and to be that welcoming committee. And what I will remember most about Michael is conversations about fishing. And I just love that about him. I mean, I just sort of, you know, every NAWRS I would say, so are you going fishing this time? I don't think he went fishing the last NAWRS, so he sort of missed it at Atlanta, I guess it was. Is that where we were last year? So I'm really glad that the board decided to do the award in his honor, because I think it will be a way to just keep his memory and who he was alive for all of us. And I think he's just, you know, I just really just smile, and I just have great memories of him. So thank you.
So for me, I think NAWRS and Michael really go together. It's hard to think about NAWRS without him. And I feel like his personality, his casual, friendly nature is part of what makes NAWRS the casual, friendly conference that it is. And so I had been, I think maybe Los Angeles was my first NAWRS, maybe a couple before that. So I had met him at a NAWRS, and then I was on a site visit in Los Angeles and interviewing him in his professional role. But then we ended up in one of those side conversations, and he was saying, well, you know, NAWRS needs a program chair for next year, and can you think of anybody who might be a program chair? So he roped me into it with George. But it was really an easy sell because my experience of him and NAWRS together had been so wonderful that I was happy to contribute to it, and I'm very sorry that he's not here.
I'll always associate Michael with NAWRS, and actually I remember that Los Angeles conference when it was 116 degrees, I think, and set a record forever in Los Angeles, the hottest days. And I think it was probably something, and it didn't slow us down at all, and certainly didn't slow Michael down at all. I actually first met Michael doing work in Los Angeles County. Ended up doing quite several studies in Los Angeles County, and Michael was the gatekeeper to get approval to do research in Los Angeles County. And sometimes you don't really, I mean, you don't fully appreciate folks sometimes until they're gone. It's a terrible thing to say. But in his work with folks like me who wanted to do work in Los Angeles County, he always understood what we were trying to do. He had rules that we had to follow, and he had processes we had to follow that we had to walk through to get from here to there. But he always put the end above the bureaucratic process. I mean, we always followed the rules. He never broke the rules, but he always found a way to help us get to where we needed to go. And it's because he really appreciated and understood what we were trying to do. He had it in his heart. And you know, you can have as much as you want in your head, but if you don't have it in your heart, it's not the same. And Michael had it in his heart, and I just really appreciate that, and we'll just miss him.
So hi, as George said, I'm Vince Kilduff, and one of my earliest encounters with Michael, and it showed both his big heart and his easygoing manner. So we were at NAWRS, the 2006 workshop in Jackson Hole, which is lovely in the off-season and summer. You know, so Michael, like a lot of us on the board, arrived a few days early to set up the workshop. And after accomplishing this, having some time on his hands, he rented a car and had planned to run up to Yellowstone for the day. He had brought along a fishing pole, and so he obviously planned to get a line in the water at some point that day. He made the mistake of mentioning his plans to somebody, and knowing Michael, probably invited him along. But somehow, in a very short period of time, this went from a personal fishing and sightseeing trip to this group outing of 7 or 8 people. And Michael, you know, with his just unflappable and inclusive demeanor, was fine with that, and even went so far as to trade in his car for a van so we could all go together. So it gives you a chance to, or just an example of the kind of guy he was. And I don't think he got a chance to catch any fish while he was in Wyoming. But I had a great day with Michael and this impromptu gang going to Yellowstone. Oh gosh, Michael and I think, joined the NAWRS board about the same time. And as the years went on, we worked more and more closely. He had an infectious energy and embodied the ideal that you can accomplish much if you are not worried about who gets the credit. Which I think is really saying something, because as you've heard about the body of his work, you know, he's brilliant, he's accomplished. And he was a guy who got projects done regardless of the challenges. You know, that tells me, you know, what a classy guy, you know, to maintain that kind of, you know, humility after all the body of work he accomplished. Just in closing, you know, my remarks, you know, I want to honor Michael for his positive influence on our organization, his influence on his colleagues, and through us to the communities we serve. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Teresa Anderson. And as Michael Wiseman already shared, I just have a few words just because NAWRS 2010 was my first exposure to this wonderful hybrid of a workshop and a festival that we come here to love. And the thing about it was, you know, we went to Los Angeles. I'd never been to a professional conference before. I think it was my first one. And I was like, wow, this place is, this event, it's classy, it's fun, it's innovative, and it's like a family. And what I realized was those were exactly the characteristics that Michael imbued in that event, because he had this high-class joy for life that was always trying to think of better ways to bring people together, to share ideas, and to have a good time doing it, so that we could do our work better, so that we could make new friends and be able to come together. And he continued. It wasn't just that one workshop. I mean, his dedication, I don't know how he put in as much time as he did behind the scenes to make NAWRS a success, from the big to the small. I mean, he was dedicated. He created our logo. He managed editing our bylaws. He put together the workshop for, was it 3 years? And he never asked, how do I get this done? He just figured out how to get it done, and he brought people in, but he took the lead in a way that really strengthened the organization, I think promoted its strength and sustainability, and I think it's the reason that we'll continue to have our conferences for many years to come. So I appreciate that. He's been an inspiration for me in my work with the organization, and I hope, and I know we'll carry on his work. I've also been asked to say a few words on behalf of Barbara Starts, who's another member of the board who can't be with us today. So please bear with me. Barbara writes, Michael holds a special place in my heart after working together on the NAWRS board for 12 years. He had a contagious sense of humor and a big, hearty laugh, and I liked him instantly when we met at NAWRS in Oklahoma City in 2004. He was so funny with his witty sidebar comments during oh-so-serious board discussions, and he somehow balanced that easygoing humor with some very challenging work during all those years. Michael was a wonderful NAWRS president who worked tirelessly for the cause and pulled it all off with grace and humility. But more than that, so much more than that, he was a remarkable human being who made everyone feel valued and at ease. I miss him terribly, as I think we all do, and I'm so grateful to God to have known him, though it was not nearly enough time. I pray I meet him again someday, and he talks about his wonderful wife and kids and where he's going for his next epic fishing adventure. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Tony Ong. I just want to thank Michael for his role in helping me become formally part of this organization. A few years ago, Michael, he called me and he said, "Hey, listen, we just changed the bylaws, and I want to nominate you for the board. I feel like you would be an asset to this organization." And so I was, of course, floored and, gladly accepted. And, I think it's, really, I thank you to Michael for believing that I can be part of this. It's not really a researcher. I don't have a PhD, and, but, I feel like there's something that he saw that, I think helped, thought I could be helpful in some way in moving this organization forward. So, so a few years ago, several years before that, I came to know Michael a little bit more, a little bit better. I called him up. I said, "Hey, we've been a sponsor. PCG's been a sponsor of NAWRS for several years, and we want to, we really want to be part of this community, and we want to try to find a way. I want to find a way to invest more deeply into how we can be more helpful in this organization." So, I was in San Diego quite a bit, as I still am now, and he's in LA. So I said, "Hey, I'll come up. Let's grab lunch." And he took me to his, what he considers the best fish taco place in East LA, and it was a dive, of course, but it was awesome. But so from there, it was we talked about the kinds of things that he was what he was envisioning for the board, and and I talked about some of the things that I thought, from my perspective, that things that we could do better here in ours, and in ways that I maybe could help to contribute. So thank you to Michael. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, but thank you very much.
My name is Sarah Leopold. I'm reading a message, however, from Mary Roberto, who followed Michael after his first presidency and can't be with us today. So she said, "Good evening to all of my NAWRS colleagues and friends. First, I'm sorry I could not join you this year to give this tribute in person. I miss you all very much and will definitely plan to see you next time. Hope you're enjoying your time in Pittsburgh and want to extend a thank you to Kinsey and the rest of the board, as well as the other volunteers who did some excellent work putting together a comprehensive and well-rounded program." She knows this, doesn't she? I especially want to thank them for setting aside time for some of us to pay a special tribute to our friend and longtime supporter of this research community who was taken from us all too soon. She says, "I met Michael in 2009 in Albany when he took the reins as the 2010 NAWRS president on the heels of one of the worst economic times in our history. I worked at his side as a board member during that year with both amazement and great respect. Michael mentored and encouraged me as I made my way into the role as president in 2011. His commitment to this organization was, as Kinsey mentioned in her welcome letter, always above and beyond the call of duty. Michael and I love to talk and debate social policy. He was not only an advocate for those in need, he lived and breathed the research that would tell their stories to both researchers and practitioners, with the hope of improving lives through better policy and practice. My fondest memories of Michael are during good meals with our NAWRS colleagues. He always knew the best restaurants or easily found them and chose the best wine I have ever tasted. Our NAWRS events were always an adventure. We even found Michael Phelps playing incognito at one of them. I enjoyed our times together because he never failed to make me laugh with his storytelling. In addition to my admiration of Michael for the dedication he had to his work, I admired him for the love he had for his family. He talked often about Valerie and his kids with both gratitude and a giant smile. Cheers to you, Michael Bono. I am thankful that I was blessed with you as a great mentor and friend. This world was definitely a better place with you in it." Thank you.
So Michael, as I feel like a number of other people have said now, he was the face of NAWRS for me in a lot of ways. He hosted, as we've heard, the first NAWRS workshop that I ever attended, which was in Los Angeles in 2010, with a Tuesday night event at that incredible villa on the beach. And I haven't missed a conference since then. When I joined the board in 2013, I started to really get to know Michael and admire him even more. He was the driving force behind strategic planning and branding efforts to really ensure the success and sustainability of this organization. And he returned to the role of president for NAWRS for 2 more workshops in 2014 and 15, leading really excellent events in Providence and Atlanta. I was and remain rather nervous about following him and the high bar that he set, but he provided so much support and mentorship as I took on the role. He also did it with a sense of humor. Among other stories, I remember sitting in a large conference room back at my office in New York City. We were waiting for our commissioner to begin a meeting, and so there were all these senior leadership in the room. We're right next to reception, the sort of entry reception. And so since the meeting hadn't started yet, Kia, who works the reception, came in. She had this old shoebox that was all kind of taped together. And everyone was looking at that thing like, who mailed a bomb to our office? And who was it for? And so she gave it to me. And everyone's staring at me. And people are like, all right, well, you've got to open that thing. You know, Kia, get her some scissors, because this thing was like taped up with like rounds and rounds of tape. And I was really, surprised and wondering what I was about to open and how embarrassing it might be. And it was, and I should have brought it here. I had it at the opening this morning. It was the gavel. It was the NAWRS gavel. And so I opened that with everyone watching me, and that was, anyway, it was a lot of fun. When I learned, when we all learned that Michael was sick, it was really devastating. Michael was so actively still engaged with the board as ex officio in his year after being president again. He had taken on a number of things, and he made sure there were no loose ends. He emailed several different people, asking them sort of strategically and purposefully to take on different things that needed to get done that he knew he wasn't going to be able to do. So he wrote all these emails to make sure that they would happen. So the sustainability of NAWRS remained really forefront in his mind. And his continued dedication, his honesty and candor about the tragedy that he was facing was really inspiring. Also incredibly inspiring was his dedication in those months to brain tumor research. He started looking into it and saw that the research really wasn't moving fast enough, and he was determined to help those who would come after him. And so together with his wife and children and other family and friends, he raised money for the National Brain Tumor Society. Just after he passed away last fall, Team Michael Bono walked in the Society's annual LA Walk. And Team Michael Bono is walking again this year, if anyone's going to be in Los Angeles on Saturday, November 4th. Very welcome to join. I think it's the group with the yellow shirts. And you can also donate to his memory. I'm going to say the URL, but you can also come to me for it. It's www.braintumorcommunity.org/go-to/Team Michael Bono. And I'm now, I have the honor to read a statement that Michael's wife, Valerie, sent. She considered coming and decided that might be too difficult now, but she was really grateful that we're having this event. And she writes, On behalf of myself and our 2 children, Raphael and Eliana, I want to thank the NAWRS board and all of you who are present tonight to honor and remember Michael. Thanks especially to George and to Kinsey, Teresa, Barbara, and Latamra, who kept me up to date via many, many emails. We are grateful to all those who contributed to the photos you are seeing, some of which Michael took. Yesterday via Skype, I was privileged to get a sneak peek at the beautiful room in which you are now gathered. Michael would appreciate the grandeur and history of the place. For Michael, NAWRS was a very important part of his life, and he greatly valued the work you all do. He knew firsthand the importance of coming together to share research and ideas pertinent to human services programs. This exchange of ideas was invaluable during the 13 years he worked at the Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services. Michael invested time and energy to facilitate the NAWRS mission as a presenter, moderator, attendee, board member, and 3 terms as president. He was very proud of the NAWRS Volunteer of the Year award he received. After Michael was diagnosed with brain cancer in May 2016, he brought his energies to raising money for brain tumor research through the National Brain Tumor Society. We would love to have you sponsor us and Team Michael Bono for the November 4th Los Angeles Brain Tumor Walk, or if you're in Los Angeles, sign up to participate. Michael always kept NAWRS in his sights. 6 weeks after learning his diagnosis, Michael wrote to the NAWRS community, "I dream of attending NAWRS 2017 as a guest rather than a presenter and seeing all of you. It will be my 8th consecutive workshop." Although Michael's life was cut short, I believe he lives on in the lives he touched. So continue the good work, and while you're at it, do as Michael did, and be sure to see the beauty around you, whether with a nice glass of wine and delicious food, music, art, or being in nature.
To a life well lived that touched many other lives.